because I've done quite a bit of commercials and filming, the skills I've learned is obviously make sure I pick the right equipment. So recently I've made an investment into the a6400 Sony, which is a 4-year-old camera from Sony. It was released 4 years ago. The reason why I picked this is because when I did Next Wave, I had my ZV-1. The ZV-1 kept on overheating. So I relied on the M50, but when we shot with the M50, it gave a really flat out basic color. It wasn't really detailed like the Sony was. So it was a bit odd, like jump cutting between those two. But the a6400, I am able to make it look similar to it, like the ZV-1, and obviously I don't have the worry of it overheating. It will just stop recording when the battery's dead, which I can monitor more easily than the heat of the camera. Ignore this. So first test shoot I did was lighting. I did lighting because obviously I wanted to see how the cameras would handle the stage lights. Would I need to get more external lighting into it, or would I be able to focus just on the stage lights? So all these photos are screenshots from the test shoot, and as you can see, the lighting really did work on the Sony cameras. You still see their faces quite clearly. You've also got a bit of the colour in the shadows, but also they just stand out a bit more. So you've got the colours in the background, but then the white light more on their bodies. So here's the video of the test shoot.
They deny me.
Some things can be true and real without you knowing anything about it. Like, there are things we can't see, but they're real.
Like
Gravity. Why are you stuck down before we want?
about the beach. Sam, did you say anything?
How?
What are you doing?
Is it
It's
true?
not true. All the way down to the sea. You went to the cave and you followed him. You went there together. I saw him mutate like multi-hunting. I saw you both.
Smash it, but stopped. I picked it up, placed it in the palm of my hand, put it on a coaster and turned the cup upside down so it couldn't escape.
But you did. What did you feel?
Felt like a rope with like moss on it.
Right. Is he having a kind of power? Is it your Ed? Who knows that? Really got it. And this is one. Just music, isn't it? Heritage, cultural heritage. Ain't that in the heart? Ah. Sid says true. I just thought you have something up your sleeve as a fuck you.
So obviously that's shots of them from, obviously their Play This Year replica, so that was the second year's, but you can see in the lighting that, so obviously when we have this sort of shot of the light sort of coming towards them and behind you get this lovely like sort of halo around their body, and I think it just makes it stand out as well as you get a flare. One of the things obviously I learned from this test shoot was that I need to be careful with shadows, because you can see my shadow come into play about 2 times. So my shadow's under here, there's my shadow, and then my shadow sort of comes into play there. Yeah. My shadow sort of comes into play, but that's something I just obviously need to be aware of when the stage is being lit. And also, it might be a case of that I hold an external light with me while I'm filming, because obviously their faces are a bit blue. Obviously, they're very blue and quite pink. But it might be something I consider, or might not something I do. But this is sort of the thing I'm going to try to do. I really like is the fact that you've got a black outline of the audience. It's all blacked out, but you see the actors behind. But what I really want to get a shot of is really of them talking side by side, so you get their faces. So that's one of the things I want to do. Okay. The next test shoot I did was interviews. This was something, I was doing quite something different with the interviews, because obviously with Antigone, I shot it in the studio, but this year I wanted to shoot it down in the lecture theatre, as obviously the plan for this test shoot was that when I shoot it down in the lecture theatre, you have people sort of acting in the background. They're all blurred out, but there's still like a lesson going on in the background, so they can get a feel of, like, the future students can see what does the space look like, as well as what's it like acting there. So I used 3 cameras. I used the A6400, the FX30 and the ZV-1. On the FX30, I had a 35mm lens, and it was the primary camera. It was face on towards, and I really like how it turned out. You've got sort of the naked space around it, and then people like moving in and out would look really nice. For the ZV-1, I was not quite on the 45-degree angle rule. I was more side on, so if I just turned it a bit more, I think it looked better. And then for the A6400, I tried to go quite wide and low as well, just sort of like try something new. It's something I've never done, but I thought it would be quite nice, but I think it didn't really turn out because they kept on moving their legs, and it was a bit weird having a foot coming in and out of shot. For the A6400, I used quite a wide lens. I think I used a 16 to 20 mil lens, and then for the ZV-1, I used a 50mm lens for that one. But this is how they sort of turned out. I asked them 3 questions. Mainly I asked them, why did you choose this course, to see what answers they would give, and then obviously how would you describe the course in 1 word, and that's sort of how it turned out. That's my FX30. Yeah.
I did 3 A-levels. I did drama, film and English, and I really did like them, but I liked drama A-level a lot more than the other 2, and I thought that it was sort of something I wanted to do after college in my life. So I talked to my teachers, and they told me about this course, and I didn't even know it existed, and it just sounded perfect, and I really like the idea of putting on plays and proper production, so that's sort of why I chose it. Exciting.
Well, I did a year of A-levels first. I did psychology, sociology, and drama, and I kind of found myself just looking forward to every drama lesson and seeing that as like a release. I've always been involved in drama throughout all of secondary school, in school musicals and stuff, and it was my highest GCSE grade. I just kind of get a release from it with the help of the brilliant Claire. Told me I could probably do dramas and actually do it. Thought, well, this course is definitely the best one to do it on. So yeah, I did the course, and it's been brilliant. Helped me do drama applications and get offered a place. That is a great question. Probably exhilarating.
I picked this course because
Well, you get sort of a gist of it. It works well. It's flat graded because obviously I didn't colour it, which is obviously the 3rd test sheet. But for that lighting, which I'm going to detail more now, for the lighting what I did is I put a Bolton light on the side. I put it very warm, which then ended up turning sort of ZV-1 footage, making them quite green, which is something I did not try to do. So I did try and sort of like balance it out with a bit of pink and blue, just try to cool down the temperature, but it didn't work. I also realised something with the A6400. I didn't have the log footage set on recording, which is something obviously I'll do next time, which I am looking into. But there is a difference between the ZV-1 and the A6400 and the FX30. The ZV-1 and the FX30 can shoot 10-bit, meaning that it can export an arrange amount of colours, especially when I come into doing the colour grading. The A6400 can only do 8-bit, which is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Obviously, I can still do quite a lot of colour grading with that, but it may come to a case where I might have some points where there's a bit of denoiser or some colours haven't just sort of come as brightly as out as the FX30 and the ZV-1. But I think with this test shoot of how it looked on the A6400, it just sort of just calmed the colours down almost. So it was a bit white, and then obviously it still works best. With the FX30, obviously it turned out quite good with the light on the side, but I think it'll be something that I would, with the FX30, I'd obviously, because the lighting was a bit off, you have almost a shadow on the side of his face here, so I might move it more to angle so it's facing the whole of it, which is something I do, but I think the colour grading for this turned out really nicely. But obviously you can see in the CV1, it goes really green, and Just means though. Can't do it.
Like, it absorbed colour. The absence of colour and black.
So you can see here you've got a mixture of like more like blue light. Blue light was their main colour for this. They didn't really have much of a white light, and you've got purple going on our face. But obviously I shot this on the ZV-1 and it kind of helped tone down those colours. So their faces, like in Antigone, they weren't completely green. Their faces hadn't changed colour. It still looks more natural.
But stopped.
For obviously this scene, they had two colours in the background which were primary. You had obviously green and blue going on in the background, but then they had a white light focused on him. And what I really liked out of that one is you had sort of a highlight around his body, sort of like the colours, like some of the shadows of the blue and the green coming into effect, which I really liked. This is obviously showing off their colours that they have. This one shows it a bit more, so obviously I'm panning around him and then you can see the green shadow and then the blue outline around him and obviously a bit on his hair, which I quite like. This is sort of a shot, they just had the LED lights on. There was no white lights helping like the other shots there were. It was just primarily blue and pink, and it sort of helped. Sort of down here you can see it a bit more clearly, but up here it's just generally just blue and they don't really stand out a lot. They're quite dark. So this is where I would consider having an external light to help with that. But that was my test sheet 4. The next one I did was obviously, because I shot, is a comparison between Canon and Sony footage. With the interviews, the Canon and the Sony are quite similar, but because I'm downstairs and I'm filming it in lecture theatre with people behind, I think I would get a lot more detail on the Sony footage than I would on the Canon, because obviously we've got multiple things going on in the background and the Canons might not be able to handle with that and they might try and focus on other things. But with the Sony, I'm able to set it on just one person and then everything else around it is blurred out, but it's still in high quality, which I like. Obviously you can see here is an example of the colour grading. So obviously you can see their faces, they just went green. You can see on Robin's face, she's just totally green. But obviously here you've got the green and blue showing on Ben and Daisy, but their faces are still like they haven't turned totally blue and green, and it's not unnatural. With this, I decided to go for Sony footage. With this, I found that Sony footage was a lot better because when I was shooting Antigone last year, I found that there was a lot of grain going on, like a load of denoiser going on, which I had to use in the footage, and it just made the footage look really cartoony, sort of. Like if you increase it a lot, it just makes it look really flat and stuff, and I want the detail there. So the detail is a lot better in the Sony footage. There is still some detail in the Canon, but I think just the Sony footage just brings out a lot more, especially when we're using a lot of different coloured LED lights. So obviously, first year's doing Midsummer's Night's Dream. So the lighting might be similar to Antigone, where it's a lot of green, a lot of bright colours, but I think overall the Sony footage really helps a lot. So this is a comparison between the both. So obviously I did comparing from Antigone last year. So this is the interviews from Canon.
Isabel Haley. Hello, I'm Hattie Hill. I'm Cindy Nash.
Hi, I'm Eugenie Rocket. Hi, I'm Taylor.
I'm Bennett Webster.
Hi, I'm Hattie Haley. And I am playing the role of Antigone.
And I'm playing the role of King Cleary.
And I'm going to be playing Tiresias. And I play Ismene.
So obviously it's completely different. It's not just a black background, you've got obviously movement going on in the background, and it's just, it brings out a lot more detail on the Sony footage.
Enchanting.
And then this is sort of like an example of movement, as last year I went moving around with them. It sort of gave out quite a bit of detail, but I don't think it gives out enough detail that, wait for it. So almost, it could have been, if it was shot on Sony, that shot would have looked 10 times better than it was. This is obviously quite a movement shot that they did, which was high pace. I tried to track the cam bag. But this is sort of the shot. It was the original, it was just literally just them and the blue lights, but obviously the Sony was able to highlight that wasn't the lighting and just put some more colour into it. The next one I did was decided to do animation, so obviously I've been getting more into After Effects, a lot more, and the thing I wanted to do was obviously, this is more of a copy of Truro, because the reason why I picked Truro's video to deconstruct was the effects and the animations that they did. And the one thing I liked is how they had the course pop up. So I tried 3 different techniques. I did a bounce technique, a slow reveal, and then sort of an upward reveal where it showed subject spotlight, and then it revealed the 3 performing arts diploma course. These animations didn't take very long to do. The videos just over-explained it a lot. But realistically, when I was doing the videos, I sort of knew what to do because I had obviously did the graphics for Next Wave with the revealing of the logo, which took me quite a while. But I think realistically, the one that I am really going to go for is the subject spotlight, because I think the bouncy, so this was, so obviously I found some videos on YouTube and I looked at them. So the bouncy animation was just that. And then the slow reveal, I think the slow reveal is just a bit too basic, really. I think it's just, doesn't really engage anyone, but the upward movement one I like a bit more. So overall, I'd use the upward movement one. I think it's just more engaging, and I think it looks more professional. Obviously, when I come to do the actual animation, it's going to be, I would use the college's font, as well as use it white, because obviously the video I used was quite dark. So I'd have the text appear first, and then the box just sort of wipe in, which I liked. The contingency for this is really going to be, obviously, if there was a reshoot I needed to do, I would just go down to the lecture theatre in one of their rehearsals and reshoot it again, because obviously they're doing the same thing over and over again. The one thing is, for the screen acting, if I'm not able to get onto any music videos, I would just obviously use Dreamstate's BTS videos, which I have access to, as Steve wants one of the videos of where I'm flying my drone, and they're all dressed as zombies and chasing for it. That's one of the videos we're definitely going to use, but obviously if I can't get any of the screen acting, they did Dreamstate for us, so I just used Dreamstate's BTS video. That's really the... where is it being put? This is going to be put on the Cali with Colleges video, their Instagram page, their Facebook page, YouTube channel, I believe, and then obviously on the Cali with Drama's Instagram page as well, as they have their own. I've had previous work obviously promoted, so I've had my Netball Academy put on their Facebook page, my Rugby Academy, and also a little trailer to the making of Antigone I had on their Facebook page. All of these are also on their Instagram page, so this is where it's going to be promoted, especially on their website, just below the course potentially, is where they might put it as well. The crew for this is basically just me. It's me. It's not a big production. I don't need multiple people on it, and I think if I ask for multiple people on it, I'm just going to overcomplicate it, and then we have like a lot of footage and video and lots of people running around, which we don't need, because obviously there's a lot of first years this year rather than second years. So realistically, you only need one person move around on stage camera. You don't need multiple people because you'll bash into it. Hence, when we did Dreamstate, when we were filming, we were just bashing into each other when we were filming the ballroom scene. The cast, obviously both second and first years of the Performing Arts Diploma students, are all going to be in it, as well as Steve, Claire and Jamie, their lighting technician. They're all going to be in it. The equipment, I'm basically just going to use my Sony ZV-1, my Sony a6400, my Ronin S3 gimbal, my DJI mics, which I have on me now, and then those equipment I own. I personally own those equipment, and the reason why I'm using those is because I can monitor it. I can also make sure that their batteries are charged, and I haven't got the risk of the batteries being dead, which I've had in the past when borrowing equipment. I've had batteries being dead, so I can manage those. The only thing I would really get out of the college is the Bolton lights, which they have in the studio, and then obviously the tripods, which I also have, as well, but they don't really get booked out a lot often, especially the man throttle ones. So I'm pretty much okay for those, really, for booking equipment. And then this is my production schedule. So obviously I started on the 28th of February. These are all the test shoots that I've planned. This has all been subject to change because I was not told the lecture theatre was booked off for drama exams. So a lot of this has either been delayed or been changed. But obviously the day I'm screening this is the 23rd of April. That's when I'm screening this. As that's when I can book the lecture theatre, as I'm screening this all to both years of creative media, as well as both years of the performing arts department, and that's the only day everyone's here together. And then after that, I look at feedback from Steve and then the performing arts students, and I've booked off Thursday to do extra filming bits, and then obviously I've got 3 extra days to edit the final product, and then I have 2 weeks until the final deadline. Overall, what I produce is a series of content such as photos, a 90-second video for them to put on their story, and then also 3 to 4 minute documentary on the course, which hopefully they'll promote on the website, on their Instagram, and on their Facebook page. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
Well,
Oh, Jesus Christ.